Andy, I'm looking forward to our Friday because we're going to. Have you heard of the Savannah Bananas?
I'm not. I'm thinking Wiggles and Teletubbies, but I have no idea what the Savannah Bananas are.
Well, you would be wrong. It is entertainment baseball, and so they started out as a minor league team. This guy bought and his wife and another person bought this team in Savannah. They were like in a rundown like field and everything. And so they tried to make it entertaining in a lot of ways. And at first, it started like things in the crowd and what minor league baseball is really good at, like in
Yeah,
between innings type of thing. But then they like got really popular. They named themselves Savannah Bananas, which in minor league baseball, there's a trend to like coming up with quirky names
yeah,
so that you can sell merchandising. Like Jacksonville went from the Jack when we were there, went from the Jacksonville Suns to the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. And everybody was outraged until they started buying the merchandise,
yeah,
which was really
yeah,
cool. A jumbo shrimp in a baseball outfit, who doesn't want that?
yeah.
And so the Savannah Bananas got so popular, they were selling out, and they started this alternative game. They would have a real minor league system going, and then they would have another game where, they would dance in the middle of it, or they would have quirky pitching and stuff. Then they came up with their own little unique rules to make the games go faster. And it's a lot more than that. It's exploded. So they've gone from playing just in Savannah, where they're selling out all the time, tickets are hard to get, to moving around the country playing in Major League Baseball stadiums. And now they're playing in football stadiums around the country. And so we're going to watch the Savannah Bananas play the Party Animals on Friday. It is real, like it is a real game. It's
Yeah.
modified rules because you can do different things with it. But they do like entertainment in the middle. And we're going to the Bank of America Stadium where I don't think even the Carolina Panthers sell out, but this place is sold out. I'm pretty excited to go watch them. They have a really unique marketing plan and like ticket strategy. I had to go into a lottery just to go into another lottery, just to have the hope of getting a ticket. And then you get a ticket, but you don't they assign them to you. You don't get to pick your ticket. They say you're going to be in the left field, because you paid whatever
Yeah, yeah,
$50.
yeah.
So it's a little crazy. I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna have to give everybody a repost on Monday then.
I love it. I mean, Dave, you know the Andy dream, right? Is that I
Owning a
I
franchise.
I die owning some small crappy, not crappy, but like small local sports team. That's it. That's all I want. I want to be able to enjoy that. Don't need to retire. Don't want to retire. Just want to own some small sports team in Virginia and have fun with it. And so to me, the Savannah Bananas sound like they've cracked the code on my dream life right here. So I'm excited for the update. Love bananas, love yellow. So I'm like, this is a winning combo for me. So excited for you to go check it out. And maybe there's hope. Maybe there's hope for this guy to one day enter some tier 4 minor league sport as an owner. So hoping. Thanks for
We
keeping the dream alive.
we could be Ryan Reynolds and his partner on
That's
getting the welcome to Wrexham type of thing.
right.
So
That's right.
maybe minor league baseball is our thing, Andy. Maybe we should do that. So
I'm willing to go in on this with you, Dave. So we'll have to see. We'll have to
all
see.
right. All right, Andy, let's get into some topics today. I'm not really sure. You trust me to guide us to go places, and I'm not really sure I'm there today. It's been a weird week of news, but I want to start on this. Mama Jabor, skip ahead 7 minutes. We're going to talk about NBA and the coach firings and such. So we've got yesterday. We talked about the NBA playoffs and how New York was in the Final Four or the
Yeah.
conference championship, and it was a great season. They had all the celebrities out there. Ben Stiller was at the games. Basketball in New York was
Yeah.
energized again, and everything was great. And then yesterday they fired their coach. So
So New York.
it was classic. And this continues this little weird trend in the NBA. And I'm wondering if they've cracked this code. I think I may have even talked about this while you were out those couple days, but before. the end of the regular season, the Memphis Grizzlies, with like 10 games left in the season, fired their coach
Yeah,
and they continue to go downhill. Then the 3 games before the regular end of the regular season, the Denver Nuggets not only fired their coach, but they fired their general manager. Uh, the Grizzlies did not have a good response to that because frankly, they probably weren't a really good team.
yeah,
The Nuggets, though, did have a good response. They won their final couple games. They went into the playoffs and they took the Oklahoma City Thunder to 7 games, who Oklahoma City very well may win the NBA championship this year. And now the Knicks have fired their coach after one of the most successful runs they've had in years.
yeah.
So could this be a trend of like we're gonna like do we need to shake things up, or is this more of a we're gonna kowtow to players who may not, because after the Knicks lost, Andy, all the news stories came out about, well, it wasn't such a happy to do in New York, and Thibodeau is kind of tough and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So a little
Heaven forbid
weird.
a coach be tough.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, like this player empowerment era. I mean, do you side with the player you're playing like $50 million a year or the coach? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it is big news. I mean, there's a lot of questions one can ask, right? Like you can ask how much of a difference does a coach make on a pro basketball team, right? I mean, again, you take a sport like football, you take I don't know. I mean, but football might be the best example where like coaches are making critical calls along the way. But you look at a manager in soccer, you look at a coach in basketball, like you're calling the timeout and you're making the substitution important. But like the guys on the court are really kind of just running the game, really
Yeah.
just playing the game. And so, do we give Pat Riley, too much credit? Do we give Phil Jackson too much credit? Or was it, hey, Michael Jordan was better than everybody else playing basketball during that decade. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson were amazing at the right time. So, maybe you can run that risk and sort of demand like we want results. And hey, Thibodeau, you've done a good job. You got us to the playoffs, right away. You had a couple decent runs, but we need you to get us across the finish line. And nobody wants to fall into the old, the Kansas City Chiefs that we grew up with, Dave, with Marty Schottenheimer, who was a really good coach, consistently 10 wins, 11 wins, consistently in the playoffs, just never got anywhere. And so it's like, hey, do we just want a good team that gets, keeps us going and people buy tickets and people are kind of happy but never fully satisfied? Or are we going to demand the very best? I don't know. And you take a big risk when you fire a coach that's gotten you to the playoffs. You don't know if that next guy's going to come in and bring in the right dynamic. Is he going to get you back there again? You don't know. So I think it's surprising. But like you said, there was some murmurings about things. He's going to probably get another job pretty quickly. They're going to bring somebody else in. We'll see what happens. But I think, a little accountability isn't a terrible thing. I'm not sure if it's the right call.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. Time will tell, right? The question it just comes back to is like Thibodeau is like a really like strong coach. He's got one of the highest winning percentages of any active coach.
Yeah.
Like who do you bring in on that? Like
Yeah.
is so like probably in 2008, the Miami Heat famously fired their coach and brought in Eric Spoelstra, who was better. He was an assistant, but he was also the video guy. And so now obviously he's a lot smarter and all that other stuff. But you know, to your point, could a dummy run a basketball team type of thing? Maybe they go with a lesser name. Because I just don't know who from a bigger name you're going to bring into those. And I'm not going to say I'm like well versed in the NBA coaching circles, but I don't know like a bigger name than Tom Thibodeau right now that hasn't already been fired. You're not going to lure another coach from another team.
Yeah.
So where do you go with that? But I wonder is like, could this be a trend in other sports? You mentioned, I don't think it could happen in football is interesting. Is like sometimes you've seen the new coach, the coach, and you remember the Las Vegas Raiders when they hired Pierce.
Yeah.
Mid-year, they had a great run at the end of the year. Then they gave him a contract, and he sucked the next year, and they fired him. You get this new coach bump initially, but is it really sustainable? I don't know. We'll see. But
Yeah, I mean, well, in the case of Pierce, I mean, the Raiders sensed that he wasn't their guy. They wanted to replace him. The players revolted, and this is where ownership has to say, okay,
yeah,
what do we want to do? Are we going to give it a year and let our players know that they're heard and their voice matters, or are we going to say like, no, this isn't the right guy? It's a big investment to go with the guy that might not be the right guy if you really feel that way, but you also don't want to piss off your entire team. Bring in somebody who's going to raise hell, and the team's like, oh, this sucks. I'm out. I'm checking out. It's a tough call. It's a tough call. And like you said, player empowerment. We want to respect athletes. We want to give them a voice. We're paying them a ton of money. You want them to be happy. But you've got to make some hard decisions as a coach. And so
yeah,
it's tough. And not Antonio Pierce was terrible. He just didn't really get it done as a head coach. But we do see that. They do see that. And some guys go through that experience and then come back in a second time and knock it out of the ballpark. So it's interesting times. It's tough being an owner. It's tough being a coach. And if you're a player, you're feeling pretty good when you're getting a big paycheck and you've got a strong voice. You feel pretty good about it.
if Andy Jabor were the owner, I know he'd do things different.
We
So we'll
would
see.
so well. We'd have so many championships, Dave. It would be championships abound. Championships abound. One day,
Yeah.
one day.
One day, one day. All right, Andy, I like to think we have a little bit of a bromance going on here. You and I have been friends for a
Yep.
long time, and we got a good rapport on here. There's another, we don't quite rise to this level, maybe, or maybe we do. Maybe we've exceeded this level, but the bromance between Trump and Elon Musk, and we welcome back Mama Jabor as we get into some politics talking, but the bromance between Trump and Elon Musk may be over. Now, Musk was a special government employee. He was only supposed to be there for, was I think 120 days. That time has passed, but Trump famously said, he will still be here and he'll still be working and he's not going anywhere. Well, then Musk came out and said that this big beautiful bill that the Republicans have put forth is a fucking disgrace and and all sorts of bad names. Could we see the end here, Andy, or is Musk just calling it like he sees it? I don't know.
I think you've got two strong personalities that believe that their fans are 100% loyal to them, that are both majority at least, if not fully, full of shit. And so now they need somebody to blame because Doge sucks, right? Doge sucks. America hates Doge, except for the super Trump fanboys and the super Musk fanboys. America doesn't like Doge. It's been a failure. Like they can't point to actual results. It's ending up costing the government more. The budget that's going in is even bigger. It's going to grow the deficit even more. You've got frustrated former employees. Maybe they're former employees. Maybe they're not really fired. Nobody knows for sure. We're still fighting this, several months in. It's a mess. And neither one of them wants to own it, right? And Dave, I'm going to step back for a second. I was thinking about this yesterday. What happened to leadership accountability, right? We're talking about coaching accountability. What happened to I'm the boss, the buck stops here. This was my decision. This was my responsibility. And either one of these guys can own it, right? Elon could say, look, yeah, Elon, was Elon running Doge? Who was ever running Doge? Who's in charge of Doge? Like nobody knows. It's a bunch of hand waving magical bullshit from both of these bullshit artists. But he could say like, I made some decisions, didn't work out the way we wanted for this reason, that reason, whatever. Nope, wasn't really involved, didn't really do it. Trump, you're the fucking president. Like you own it. But it's like he's gonna be able to now he's gonna try and blame Elon Musk for whatever went bad. They're both setting up the blame game because they both know they've driven the car into the river and they don't know what to do with it. So the bromance over the question now is what do these two douchebags do? Like what do you do when people are going to win us? Their bromance was critical. Musk's money, Trump's popularity came together to help really drive the election across the finish line. If they split, like where do their fanboys' loyalties go is a really interesting question. For me, ideally, this starts a real split in the Republican Party that ends in a MAGA party, a libertarianish, maybe leaning Republican Party. I'll come back to that if there's time because I've got some thoughts there on the absolute lack of leadership and bullshit coming out of the Republican Party on that end. I think it's leading to an interesting situation for the Republican Party of infighting, finger pointing, and maybe schism. And I'm here for it. Bring me the popcorn. I am here for it.
Yeah, it is really shaping up. I mean, let me just give you some quotes from Musk here, because I'm sorry I can't take it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. It will massively increase the gigantic budget deficit to 2.5 trillion and burden American cities with crushingly unsustainable debt. I think this is the problem with government we have today, Andy, is Musk for, he came in, he said he was going to do 2 trillion in savings, then it was 1 trillion, then 500 billion. The number kept going lower and lower because this money is all tied up into things that they just can't cut away with an instant. And instead, what they chose was, well, let's cut employees and let's cut contracts and let's do these things because that's easy. They can do that quickly. The
Yes.
longer term problems that are saddling this country with debt are things that these politicians keep writing into these laws and writing into these budgets that just are unbelievably foolish. And so now you are going to have, now the rubber does meet the road, right? The split here. Like now you have a clear crack because, Musk has and has offered and pledged millions of dollars to Republicans to support their reelections and such like that. What happens to that now? Is Trump going to do that? I don't know.
Yeah. No, nobody wants to make these calls. Look, this goes back to what we were talking about on Monday with Iowa Senator Joni Ernst, like talking about Medicaid. Like, we do have to have hard conversations in this country, right? Because what we've done is we've created this system where we're spending a ton of entitlements in these dedicated programs and on defense and in other areas, and those aren't things you can just immediately cut because they're locked in. And
Yeah.
so we're creating a situation where we're burdening future generations with debt that they cannot afford. Dave, we can't afford it because we don't make enough humans. We don't have enough babies. Dave, imagine if we had a better immigration policy. We made more Americans through other nations and people that want to come here. That would be a large elixir to this problem, right? It really would be. But we can't figure that out either because Congress is completely useless, full of failed leaders themselves. No better from a leadership standpoint. And again, we might come back to that point, but we've created an unsustainable problem. We do have to have honest conversations, but we have to have conversations thoughtfully, patiently, with open hearts and open minds, as opposed to the nonsense we're seeing coming out of Doge and Congress now, where they just want to make these massive cuts that can really hurt people. So it's a problem. But as Americans, we can't have thoughtful conversations right now because our two political parties want to just score points off one another, get reelected, and fuck, we'll just kick the can of pending hell down the road so that whatever Gen Delta, is going to eat shit and be straddled with pain and suffering. But all these current politicians will be dead by then. They don't give a shit.
Yeah, I mean, we do have to have hard conversations, and I'm sorry, but this big, beautiful bill that's been like everybody roundly, except for the Republican Party, has agreed this is going to add debt to the already burgeoning debt we have. It is just like we continue to just all we are talking, delivering talking points, and all we are talking about the same old things about you know, this is good for the American people. Well, again, show us if again, we can't keep blaming the previous administration because that seems to be the big thing right now too, is like, oh, we have to do these things because I got such a terrible economy. I got such a terrible
Yeah.
country and we have to do all these things. Look what happened under the previous president. And the good things that were done he's taking credit for the infrastructure bill. Like Trump is somehow taking credit for that, and all of that stuff. But then the bad stuff, he's not taking credit for, of course, because it's still not his economy yet, I guess. So
Although it was before he actually came into office for the
yeah.
good thing. So again, Donald Trump doesn't take responsibility for anything really. He takes credit for things where he can, but he doesn't take responsibility when something isn't a good story because he's not a real leader, right? He's not a real leader. Yogi Berra, Dave, some of our listeners might remember Yogi Berra, legendary character in the world of baseball where this podcast started. And he said something along the lines of, when we win, you did it. When we do okay, we did it. And when we lose, I did it. Right? That was his sort of leadership guidance. And I heard that from an Army general when I was serving, who later went on to become the senior Army leader during about a 4-year stretch. And I thought that was this absolutely great leadership guidance there, right? Celebrate your team when they win. You celebrate your team and all they've accomplished. Trump takes all the credit. Accept shared responsibility when, hey, we could have done better, guys. I could have made some things differently. You could have done some things differently. Sharing it together. Celebrate the good and the bad of it. And when it goes south, rather than blame everybody else, as a leader, stand up and say, look, I could have done things differently. Like, it didn't go the way we wanted. It starts with me. I should have put us on a different path. Donald Trump blames everybody around him when things don't go well. It doesn't even, it's not even associated with him when it doesn't go well. That would never work as a sports leader. Doesn't really work as a business leader. And Donald Trump had a lot of really shitty businesses. Like, we can't forget that.
I was gonna say, like, his business is like, if
Yeah,
you really look at it, I
yeah.
mean, it's a lot of smoke and
It's a
mirrors.
lot of bullshit. And it's exactly what he's doing right now. It's an absolute lack of leadership. And so, it's just nonsense. And look, like, some people want to sort of celebrate Trump, like, oh, look what he's saying. Hey, asshole, you've been a part of this and complicit in this nonsense since January. Celebrating it, boosting it, you helped pay for it in getting Donald Trump to office, and along with a Republican majority that's been absolutely useless. So you are just as responsible as the party you're now trying to blame. So you just can't take it anymore. You should have fucking done something about it already, you jackass. So no lost love here for Donald Trump. Well, not for Donald Trump and not for Elon Musk. And I see, Dave, that we're rolling into our third segment already. So can I get on the soapbox just a little bit longer here?
Yeah,
So
go for it, man.
in in
The
this
soapbox is yours.
schism, in this schism where we're seeing, now some in Congress say, yeah, like, Elon's right. We can't spend like this. You're seeing this sort of historically libertarian leaning senators, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, suddenly stand up and say, like, we should be doing this differently. Assholes, where have you been in hiding, holding Trump's balls for the last 12 years? Rand Paul completely kowtowed to Donald Trump when Donald Trump kicked his ass back in the 2016 primary. And he's been sucking that ass ever since, helping and enabling exactly what we have here today, waiting for an opportunity not to save America, but for him to have an opportunity to maybe run again, to maybe take the Republican Party a different direction. In the meanwhile, America's been suffering, banging its head against the wall in 12 years of Donald Trump's chaos, keeping him on the national stage because you were too cowardly and not willing to stand up and put your maybe position at risk and maybe get primaried, right? You didn't want to stand up and be a real leader. Instead, now there's an opportunity and somebody else is willing to stand up and say something. Now you want to stand up and say, well, maybe we do need to do things a little bit differently here. Screw off. That's not leadership either. That's absolute failure. You're an opportunist, just like every other jackass in Congress who sits around waiting for a chance to get into a potential leadership role or take things in the direction that they finally want. In the meanwhile, you let America suffer. Failed leadership in Congress, failed leadership by Elon Musk, failed leadership by Donald Trump. The Democrats didn't do any better, including robotic Joe Biden, who's been dead now for 5 or 6 years, I guess, according to Donald Trump. But absolutely, catastrophically failed leadership. America shouldn't be celebrating Elon Musk. America should just be absolutely fucking outraged.
I did want to bring up the robot thing,
Sorry,
but
I went on too long there, but man, what a
between the robot thing and Trump's screen, like a
oh
homepage
my
or
gosh,
a
yeah,
lock screen picture,
yeah.
like like, how do we take this man serious? But again, the people who take this man serious are the ones who are all donned out in his gear, who can't really articulate any position that he really has. So, all right, Andy, I think that wraps up. We did go into that second segment, but I think it's worth it. We were going to talk about some other things maybe, but the reality is like we have hard times and we have a lot of hard questions that we have to be asking, and we have to hold our leaders accountable. We have to hold them. If they're going to do certain things, they need to be held accountable, whether that's in town hall meetings and ask tough questions, or whether that's at the ballot box. And we cannot just go along again to continue. I mean, we need politicians who are thinking about our citizens, are their constituents first, and then thinking about everybody else later. This go along to get along Republican Party idea. Everybody's going to be, all 50 are going to vote this way, or all
Yep,
200 and
yep.
some odd are going to vote this way. Everyone is being impacted differently by the decisions that the president is pushing into place. They don't have to go along with it. You can go
Yep.
against it. There was a time when, you mentioned Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton working together. Speakers of the houses worked very closely with the president on bills and legislation. And again, we had people who voted against party lines because why? It was better for their constituents, not for the party. And we have to get out of that. This loyalty to the party, this shit doesn't fly, and it doesn't work. It hasn't worked in 25 years, since really we had that change in, the head of the president or whatever was the head of the party and all that other stuff. That shit has got to change. I understand the mentality behind it, but it hasn't worked. It's been failed policy after failed policy after failed policy. So in order to really move forward, we have to challenge ourselves, even within our own parties, Andy, and that's not being done on either side, Democrats or Republicans.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
that was my little soapbox,
I
Andy.
liked it. I liked it. I mean, I was ready. I was ready to vote for you. It was nice.
All right, there we go. So maybe one day. All right, Andy, let's wrap up on a Wednesday. Hope everyone enjoyed the pod. I hope everyone, we'll look forward to a Friday and talking through some end of week topics. I just sent you one on space, Andy. I'd like to talk maybe a little bit on space on.
I'm down for a good space conversation. Hopefully, it involves Spaceballs or Star Wars or Star Trek, but I'm guessing we'll go somewhere else. But I'm looking forward to it, Dave. Happy Wednesday, June 4th, and thanks to our listeners for putting up with all the nonsense. So, to better days. Fridays are always better days.
It is better days. So, all right, Andy, with that, we'll catch up with you on Friday.